Welcome back to Lower Keys Living, everybody. And yes, we've got another big fish on this week. This one happens to be a nice bull mahi we caught just a few days ago. Really a nice size mahi out here. We've had some great winter mahi this year and just a gorgeous day out here on the water. I want to share with you my tactics today on how I'm fishing for mahi. I'm going to go through everything that I do, from the types of reels I have, what weight line I've got on them, how I connect those to my lures, and what type of lures I'm using, and then the other gear that I bring on, including some spinning rods with some different types of lures on those, and how I use those. And then I'm also going to show you what I'm looking for when I'm out on the water, from different types of birds working to weed lines, and how I troll along the weed lines. Give you as much information in a nice simplified format as I possibly can to give you the best shot of success out here fishing for mahi. This one, again, it's a nice sized bull mahi out here just in a small patchy weed line area. And you'll see why I'm just not using diving lures out here today. You'll see why, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. I'm just using these surface lures. But again, take a look at this. This is just a nice size mahi. And again, I was really happy to get this one on board. This is going to give us some really nice mahi fillets and be a great fish, provide dinner for a few nights and some sandwiches for the week. Again, stay tuned. I'm going to take you through everything you need to know to have a successful trip out here on the water hunting for a mahi. And just look at the colors on these guys, just absolutely beautiful and a great fighting fish.
All right, let's keep this simple and easy for you. Mahi are a really aggressive feeding fish, so if you find an active school, don't need to overthink what you're doing with mahi. So here is what I'm typically running, I'd say 90% of the time when I'm out fishing for mahi. First off, I have a couple of these Penn Warfare combinations. It's a rod and reel combination. Really great reel, super reliable, really effective. I love the self-leveling feature of this one, keeps your spool nice and level. And I have 30-pound test monofilament on this, and I've connected that. At the end of that, I have an 85-pound stainless steel snap swivel, and then that will connect to my lure. And I'm typically running, if you've seen my videos before, you're probably getting tired of this, but I'll run these billy baits, and I'll run two of these, one on either side of the boat off the outriggers, and always run these anywhere from 40 to 60 feet from behind the boat. Fishing for mahi, you don't need to go way back. If I'm targeting tuna, I'll go 100, 150 feet back, because the tuna shy away from the prop wash or the boat wake, but mahi will come right through that for feeding. So again, 30-pound weight to the billy bait, and these come with a 100-pound test, 6-foot leader on these. And one of the other reasons, besides their ability effective at catching fish, is you can see on this that cone-shaped head really sheds weed really well. So if you're trolling weed lines, it helps keep the weeds off of this, so you're not constantly cleaning your line. Another thing, a lot of people that I know, they'll put a ballyhoo or another bait fish off of this, or some squid off the back of that. I never do. I've never found a need for it. They are super effective with that, just running them clean, and makes them really easy to run and operate. And again, love these, great for multiple species of fish. But again, I run two of those, one on either side of the boat. And then in the center of the boat, if I'm out by myself, I'll run one. If I've got somebody else with me, I run two. But I have these Shimano TLD 25s, and on this I have 30-pound yellow monofilament line, and then that is coupled. This one happens to have a 25-foot 150-pound test wind-on leader. This is what I'm using. This one happens to be an 80-pound test, but I like these. You can wind right on, connect those to your main line with a bimini knot, and you're good to go. And I tie these directly onto my deep diving lures. I have problems because these put so much stress on the snap swivels. I've had them break off unless I'm going to a really big snap swivel. So these, I simply just tie right on directly to the lure. And again, this one, I like the deep diving lures, give you three-dimensional, and the bigger mahi I find tend to be down below the smaller ones at the surface. So these get down there. I don't run these along really broken weed lines, because these fins get really clogged up with weeds. So I don't like having to clean those off all the time. So, but a clean weed line or out in open water, if I'm trolling for schools of mahi, I'll run these behind the boat, and I'll put 1 or 2 of these behind the boat. And that's it for trolling. Really simple, keep it nice and easy. And then the other thing I keep on hand, if I find a weed patch or some sort of debris floating in the water that's got some 3-dimensional depth to it, I always keep 2 of these spinning reels. This happens to be a Penn Battle 3 5000, a really nice reel, nice smooth action on it. And I do those because if I find debris in the water or a weed spot of weeds that have a lot of mahi in it, we can just pitch into those. And I always keep 2, one with usually a white featherhead jig. This is a 2-ounce one. I like to use a 1/2 ounce or 3/4 ounce one, little smaller ones than these, but that's what I pitch in with. Or I will keep the other one with a little small simple lure, because if they're not going after the white feather jig, oftentimes you'll find them going after this, just depending on what they're feeding on that particular day. Another rig that I do like to run when I'm targeting mahi are these Tormentor rigs. It has 4 of these teasers up in front, and then the hook and lure with the hook on it at the back end of it. All that action brings fish to the surface, so a really effective rig. So that's another option that I run. And then things I don't run, you see these at almost every store, has things or similar to this, and I've never had much luck with these. And then this flat rounded head, when you have weeds coming down the line, they just get hung up. These do not shed weeds well at all. So you're constantly, if you're working weed lines, pulling these in to clean weeds off. And anytime you got a line in on the boat cleaning weeds off, it's not in the water catching fish. So that's it, nice and simple. And now I'm going to show you some of the things that I'm looking for and tactics when I'm out on the water trolling.
All right, let's keep this really simple. One of the favorite things to look for when I'm out fishing for mahi are obviously these big weed lines. This one goes on for miles. And when I'm working these weed lines, I will stay on the windward side. You can tell the wind is coming from this direction towards this weed line. It goes across, and that's why you have the smooth water on the downward side. These weeds break up this little surface chop that's on here, and it's smooth. Now, try and stay away from this side of the weed line, especially if I'm working deep drop lures, because this is going to have a lot of the broken weeds. Even light winds are going to blow pieces of this off, and they're going to gather up behind this. So much cleaner trolling up here on the upwind side of these weed lines. And I'll stay anywhere from 10 yards to 20 yards off of these. If there's mahi, they will come out for your lures, whatever you're pulling. Let's say I see a big patch and I know there's a spot where there's some mahi working, I'll pull right up to it, and that's where I get the spinning reels out, and I'll just pitch into that spot. So this is the first thing, again, a really well-defined weed line. These less defined weed lines are also great. You can work all the way up and down. These are going to either be right after a heavy wind has broken up a big weed line, or they're just starting to form and building up. But when you see these, there's going to be a lot of weeds out here in the water. So if I see stuff like this, I automatically will pull the deep diving lures, because they're just going to get built up with weeds and not be worth the time pulling them out, putting them back in all the time. So I'll stick with my cone-headed surface lures in situations like this. The other thing I love to find are great big weed patches like this. These will hold a ton of bait fish underneath them, and always have good luck finding these. One thing, these will hold a lot of almaco jack, which are smaller. They're a good eating fish, but also a really aggressive feeder. So if you're not finding mahi, chances are you're going to end up with almaco jack in a weed patch like this. One thing to look for are birds working these weed patches, whether it's a big weed line or a patch like this. If there's birds working, you know there's game fish, sport fish underneath it, pushing bait fish up to the surface, up from underneath these weeds. So a really good sign. And one last thing I look for when I'm out looking for mahi would be frigate birds working out the distance. The great big frigate birds, they travel thousands of miles, but they tend to follow the big pairs of bull and cow mahi around, and looking for those and picking up the big fish that they're pushing to the surface. So if I see some frigate birds out here and they tend to be following a line, I'll pull my lures and get out to those as quick as I can and get out in front of them and try and troll through those. And I've gotten really good luck under being below those frigate birds, catching larger mahi, both bull and cow. So that's it. That's what we're looking for. Don't overthink it. A couple little tips: if you see a big weed line like that one back here at the beginning, and there's a lot of boats working it, but you don't see them doing a lot of action, you might just pass by this weed line, and because days like this there tend to be multiple, maybe they're a half mile, a couple miles apart, you go out, find a different weed line and keep trying. I've come out, and the first weed line I come to has got 30 or 40 boats trolling up and down the weed line and nobody's catching anything. And I'll go past and just go out a few miles further, find another weed line. I'm the only one that's out there, and it's have a ton more luck getting those. Great if you see them and they're working and they're catching fish, by all means stop and do it. But if you're on your way out and you're watching them and it doesn't look like anybody's catching fish, don't. So many people are in such a rush and they want to stop at the first weed line they come to. They want to get their lines in the water, which who doesn't? But if you can watch them and you see nobody's got any action going, there's no birds working the area, just keep on going. You can tell people have already worked that weed line. Doesn't look like there's a lot of action happening. Head on out, find a different weed line or a different weed patch to work. Hope this little bit of information helps you. Get out there, go for mahi. It's an amazing fish to catch, and we will see you next week on Lower Keys Living.